$1,000,000 of pennies. These pussies rhyme ways, why they motherfucking spinning. And my diamonds black like sprays, and I'm smiling and grinning. I catch your bitch and I hit with the trophy. White diamonds like a dove or lotion. Pussy young nigga try fuck with these kids, but they can't fuck on nothing I got on my motion. I promise I come for the smoking, young double with me and no guns and smoking. I fuck on that bitch in emotion, no 27 carry my shit out the ocean. I call me a cardiac skeleton, yeah, go to the ocean. Baby back number with Taurus. I fuck that bitch with a virus. I put the beam on the carbon. I put the Drake on the charger. You got that bitch like a Dodger. Racks longer than Martin. I came to school tardy. I was fucking your daughter. Whole lot of bags. That fiend in the jag. Put some phones in the cash. Put the child in the trash. Let it hit like she nasty. I get lettuce, that's cash. I go bet on the gas. On the finish. I stack my cash. I ski my bag. I was telling we were playing, but there was low trust fast. I don't need my shit. Snakes in my grass. I spread sneak gas. Pussy young nigga try fuck with these kids, but they can't fuck on nothing I got on my motion. I promise I call for the smoking, young double with me and no guns and smoking. I fuck on that bitch, get emotion, no 27 carry my shit out the ocean. I call me a cardiac skeleton, yeah, go to the ocean. Baby back number with Taurus. I fuck that bitch with a virus. I put the beam on the carbon. I put the Drake on the charger. You got that bitch like a Dodger. Racks longer than Martin. I came to school tardy. I was fucking your daughter.
That look like water, I'm fucking your daughter. Look double low being lit. Everywhere I go, got a chop up, blowing and rapping. I ride a jet rock, put down with a buzz down, put them on reach. Now told me the game on GC. Since the whole air reach, I put a little hole on the line, boy, I'll get this shit on, ain't get no shit. I run chase money, got more money than my art, motherfucker, don't need no talking, just pull up a chop, beating down my twin, we go, step on below the scope with the chop, I don't need no pick, fit it in too hard like a football hoop, with 7 on the LBG, where I say, hit your body, you gon' get a back, don't tell.
Pussy young nigga try fuck with these kids, but they can't fight on my motion. I promise I call for the smoking, young double with me and no guns and smoking. I fuck on that bitch, get emotion, no 27 carry my shit out the ocean. I call me a cardiac skeleton, yeah, go to the ocean. Baby back number with Taurus. I fuck that bitch with a virus. I put the beam on the carbon. I put the Drake on the charger. You got that bitch like a Dodger. Racks longer than Martin. I came to school tardy. I was fucking your daughter.
My career about to blast like bubbly. I'm not waiting for her to say she love me. I can tell she fuck with me and trust me. I got a 10-year-old me still ain't fuzzy. 325 on the dashboard. Riding up Porsche like a time before. I bought out burners in the Christian New York. I took the jet to the New York store. She lit while I'm driving, I'm standing the phone. I took it all train, now I'm riding this boy. You stay in your feelings, you never my boy. I can't come to the hood, I pull in the car. Another body dropping this in my name. I'm going to LA on a private plane. Can never come back and my family straight. I'm touchable, no bitch too rich to pay. Skeleton cardiac, blood down his face. Pull up too big like a fucking parade. On jealous ain't sneakers trying to fuck up my pay. Blessed up, Aurora's color me rain. I put quick gas in my wrist and my neck and my ears and my motherfucking chains. This drip out the trenches, I know you gon' dig it. I come from deep off of complain.
And I stream like on our stream last night, we discussed this cash rate, this AUD cash rate, and what we had was the forecast that was given of 4.35 and the previous of 4.10. we knew that this news was a bullish news if this forecast was to be the actual. So the trend here was a bullish one already, but we discussed something that this news has already been factored into the market already. So this news was factored into the market already, which is the concept we got from the FF notes, usually priced into the market. And the reason why is because this is coming from the Reserve Bank of Australia and the figures are mostly correct. As you can notice, there are no revisions. For example, look at this news here, you notice there is this revision symbol, but if you look at this one here, there is no revision. So we know these figures, the forecast, are mostly accurate. That was why we did not we already knew that this news was already being factored into the marketplace, and as of last night, that actually was the case. We could see the whole bullish movement already. This was Friday and Monday's market. We'll have most of the volume. So this is from Monday. This is from Monday's market, and from the open of Monday you could see the whole bullishness, and this news also was a bullish one from the previous to the forecast. So the previous to the forecast was a bullish one, and as you can see, it was already being factored into the market. Thus we had this bullish momentum from for most parts of Monday, this whole bullish momentum, because this data was already being factored in to the market. Now here is where the whole thing got twisted. So just like we were analyzing last night, I told you guys that this news is already being factored into this market, and this one is the one with major influence because it is even written here. So look at it, the rate decision is usually priced into the market, so it tends to be overshadowed by the RBA rate statement. So this is the rate decision and this one is the rate statement. So just like I explained last night, if there is no statistic, then it is not measurable, and if it's not measurable, then it is hard to trade. So in this case here, I dragged your attention to something when if you are going to be trading this news and there is this statement attached to it. So I dragged your attention to something here that you want to keep close eye to the related stories being released in respect to this. So you want to check if anything is negative toward the release of this data or at the point that this data was being released. Now the first thing is the anticipation was for rates to be increased from 4.1 to 4.35, and this is something positive for the currency. This is something positive for the currency, the increase from 4.10 to 4.35, because this will help mop up liquidity in the currency. Now in this case, when the actual news was released, it has already been factored into the market prior to the release. That was why we had this whole bullish reaction on Monday. The news was to be released on Tuesday early morning, and we had the whole bullish reaction already on Monday because the news was already being factored into the market. Now this is the point where the news was released. 5:30, the time of the release of the news. Yeah, that's correct. 5:30 a.m. The time of the release of the news. Now, 5:30 a.m. is how long back? Let's see. I'm going. Okay, sorry, my time is not correct. So this is very important. You have to switch your time to the same time on your Forex Factory. So my Forex Factory, my time zone here is GMT +1 West Africa. So I have to change my trading view to the same thing, +1 West Africa. This. So I'm in GMT +1 West Africa now, so I think I got my timing wrong, so I'll start that again. This Monday markets. Fine, so this is Monday's markets. So this is Monday's markets, and you can see the rate decision being factored into the market already. The bullishness from these figures being factored into the market already for most part of Monday's trading. So this is from 12 a.m. Monday to about 17 p.m. West African time. You can see more than up to 50% of the Monday was one direction, just trading to the upside, bullishness. And the time of the release of the news, 5:30. And this is the exact time of the release of the news. Let me pinpoint that with something else. So this is the news release candle, this one specifically. So this is the data release time. This particular candle here, this is the data release time. So this is not a news you want to trade as like your regular news. The execution on this news should be different from your regular news. The secret is just here. It's already priced into the market. So before the release of the news, the big players will already do what the economic data is supposed to drive. So if the news data is supposed to be bullish, in this case, given that the decision has already been priced into the market, that means the market will be bullish prior to the release of the data. If it was to be a bearish data, the market will be bearish already prior to the release of the data. Now, given that this has already been factored into the market, then if you are going to trade this news, then your eyes should be here. If you're using Forex Factory or whatever platform you're using, you want to keep tabs on the related story. So if you're in trading view, just click this point and navigate down. You'll see news. You see news section around here. So you see all the related news. You see all of the related news to the Australian dollar in this particular section. So this is Australian dollar versus US dollar. So you will likely see news relating to Australian dollar and US dollar, or anything pertaining to the Australian dollar in this section of the AUD USD headlines in trading view. So when you're trading this, you want to make sure you stay attached to whatever news source you are using. You want to stay attached to whatever news source you're using. This case, Forex Factory, just tap on the news. Once it drops down, you see related stories. So prior to the release of the news, you want to make sure you're here already. And if you're trading the news, if you're trying to catch the volatility of the news, you want to make sure you are on the right bias of the statement. How can you do that? By keeping tabs on this section here. So if you see a negative statement against the economy or the currency, you want to know that the bullishness that the figures is supposed to cause will be nullified. So fine, you can see what was released around the news release time. The monthly chief investment officer Scott Phillips says the Reserve Bank can afford to leave rates on hold for another month. Leaving it on hold means they are not going to be tampering with the specific rates. Now, increasing the rates is what is supposed to cause bullishness. Leaving it stagnant is disinterest, and reduction in the rate is bearishness. Now, leaving it stagnant, which is disinterest, if people have low interest in your goods or services, that can also lead to reduction in demand. And once this statement came out, you could see that this whole bullishness and the release of this data, the statement came out same time of the release of the data, you could see that the whole bullishness that was forecasted became mitigated. The statements. So if you are trading a news attached to statement, you want to make sure you keep yourself abreast with the statement release here. Make sure you have that in view. Make sure this is open, and you want to see if, for example, you are on the bullish side and a negative statement comes out, you want to make sure you close your position. Do not hold on to it, because that statement will nullify whatever statistic you have here for the short term. It will always cause short-term volatility, and that will be enough to actually incur enormous losses in your account. So you want to make sure you're watching the statement and exiting your position if it is an influential statement and not in direction of your bias. So if the statistic came out and it was actually 4.35, that would have been good for the currency, and a supporting statement would even make it better. But in this case, that is not exactly what happened. Here, and you can see the statement here does not support bullishness. They halted the rates. They left it at the same figure of the previous, just like the statement here. The Reserve Bank can afford to leave the rate on hold for another month. So this will make investors lose interest in this currency, and that can smell bearishness for the currency. So you're seeing something like this and you're probably on the bullish side, you want to exit your position and switch position to the bearish side, or pack your load and leave. So jump into trading view, see exactly the time the news was released. Now the news has already been factored into the market, the bullishness. So as at that release of the news, if the data was still bullish, then we would have seen a rest of these retracements and it would have continued to the upside. But that was not exactly the case. Rather the rate was left unchanged. They left it at the same rate of the previous month, which is 4.10, and that caused disinterest in the market. So increase in rates will always lead to bullishness, will mostly, and in fact that is the usual reaction. Increase in rates causes bullishness in the market, but given that they left the rates at the previous, that means investors will be disinterested, and you can see the instant reaction the moment the figures was released and the monthly chief investment officer, who is Scott Phillips, gave his verdict on the central bank leaving rates in where it was the previous month. So you could see the reaction of the market. So just like I was saying yesterday, your fundamental is the major determinant of your trend, and trend on itself is a lagging indicator. By itself, your technical analysis is kind of a lagging indicator. So you kind of do more of prediction with technical analysis than you will do with the fundamentals, because the technicals, you might be predicting things that might not really be business related in accord to the economy. But if you know your fundamentals and you can read them, they will position you in places where you will be trading towards the incoming trend, towards the direction of the incoming trend. So for example, knowing that the rate has already been factored in, on Monday, you could have been looking for bullish position on Monday already. And at the release of this news, coming to look at the statement, because the statement will overshadow this news already. This news is being factored in before the release of the data. So prior to the release of the data, it could be 48 hours, 24 hours before the release of the data, you could be looking for bullish opportunities alone from your technical analysis. But now, since it has already been factored in and you want to trade as at this point, that means you'll be likely trading this statement. So there is no direct, specific, measurable data on statements. So if you want to trade statements, you could simply hold till the post statement release setup. That means after the statement has been released, that is where you can trade it if you wish to trade statement. And in this case, it's simple. The statement was a negative one for the economy. You should be on the sell side. And after the statement has been released, which is negative for the economy, you can do all sorts of technical analysis to support your bearishness if you actually wish to. It could be anything. Good enough. Let me drop to lower time frame to see if we could have had good setup. You can see the volatility the statement caused in the market. It was a big one here. This big candle, the moment the statement and the data was released, we had this whole bearishness. And what can you see here? This big inefficiency, the big inefficiency there, caused by the economic data. Now, if you're an ICT student, you know what this is. Just measure 50% consequent encroachment of it, and boom, here is your entry for it. This is your consequent encroachment. And you can see the whole reason why we are trading this setup here is just because of the data being released. It is a bearish data. So bearish data, the trend, the incoming trend is supposed to be a bearish one. We can't totally know the extent, but you can still use your technical analysis to target specific zones in price where that news can take you to. So in this case, we had this sell side liquidity, news release time, sell side liquidity, buy side liquidity. Fine. So if it was to be a bullish data, then you should be targeting buy side liquidity. Bearish data, you should be targeting sell side liquidity. Or if you see a major imbalance on the sell side, so market is always going to change hand from liquidity to imbalances or liquidity to liquidity. So understanding that concept, you want to scan for what is available. And in this case, what we had was this big imbalance. Markets come back to the consequent encroachment to rebalance it, and the following trend became bullish in accord to the data from here. So you can see the technical fundamentals of the market is going to likely put you in the right trend early enough before others even spot it. So you could see this one for the AUD news. It's simple, not so difficult. Since it is a statement, watch the related stories here and notice if the stories are themed positive or negative for the economy. So if they are themed negative for the economy, you search for sell opportunities. If they are positive for the economy, you search for buy opportunities. And you can see from the time of the news release, drop, return, consequent encroachment, and straight up to the sell side liquidity. So this was a nice one, combining the fundamentals and the technical of the market to have a nice result. The next news coming up today, 3 p.m. West African time, so make sure you're watching your own time zone. We have this USD related news, ISM manufacturing PMI, and this news does measure the level of diffusion of index based on surveying purchasing managers in the manufacturing industry. So above 50 indicates industry expansion, below indicates contraction. So if the industries are improving, you're supposed to see figures above 50, and if the industries are contracting, then you should see the figures below 50. So if the industries are not improving, this is manufacturing problem for the related country and its currency, so that spells negativity for the currency. And the next one here is the JOLTS job opening, which is also called the job opening and labor turnover survey, and it does measure the number of job opening during the reported months excluding farming industry. So there is a different report for the farming industry, thus it is not included in this particular JOLTS jobs opening. So since this is job opening, an increase in this figure is supposed to spell bullishness for the currency, but in this case that is not it. So that is another negative news. This one still a negative news, this one still a negative news, and this one, what does this one measure? Level of diffusion of index based on surveying purchasing managers in the industry. So this one is manufacturing PMI, and this one is manufacturing prices. So the FF notes still anchored at 50. So below 50 indicates falling prices, and above 50 means increasing prices. Now that increasing prices is a measure of inflation, and controlled inflation is good for the economy. So it's just like for you, if your prices of your goods and services increases, that is actually good for you. So on this index we can see it is anchored at 50. Anything below it indicates falling prices, anything above it indicates rising prices, and in this case what we still have is an improvement, although still below the level of 50, and this one falls under medium impact events, this one high impact. So this news, all of this news by default, they spells bearishness for the US dollar. Prior to the news, you want to make sure you back test and know how to manage your risk if you are a news trader. All of this news spell negative for the currency. And then we have the next one, which is the NZD employment change.
I was seeing my diamonds green, piece of quarter platinum. Whoa, yeah. Bitch talk to him while I'm sleeping, yeah. Swimming in the living like deep end, yeah. All I ever needed was a alibi, yeah. I don't need a motherfucking reason, yeah. Out of mind, so I keep it busy. Everything 100, I don't ever leave a 50, yeah. Did my own halftime and fall simple. What the fuck you think I'm rich for? Why you think I'm always talking shit with my hand on my dick and the crib these bitches turn into a strip show? That's what it is, though.
Okay, so the final news for today comes up at 11:45 p.m., which is NZD unemployment rate and employment change, these two. So for the employment change, we have reducing figures and unemployment rate increasing figures. So this still spells bearishness for NZD. This still spells bearishness for NZD. So this bearish news and this bearish news. So if you want to trade the news, make sure you're also watching the related stories, which you find under, if you click this envelope, at this point you see related stories. So currently there are no related stories yet, but make sure you are checking this section to see related stories in whatever pair you wish to trade. So this one You could simply read up what the related story is, what people are saying, what the analysts are saying about these data that they are expecting. So make sure you keep a close tab on this section of the related stories. So after 3 p.m. I'll be back to give you guys an update on how it went and probably to revisit them from the way we analyze them. So for now, that'll be all, guys. See you in the next live stream.